Barbershop. I'm your host, Matt Horner, with my co-host, Keith. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Matt. How you doing today?
Doing good. I feel a little... I'm sorry, I feel awkward.
You sound awkward. What is your problem?
That's our topic today. What do we do when we get awkward?
Oh my gosh.
It is so... social empathy, I heard one guy say, is when it gets awkward. When you walk into an elevator, but someone just walked out and they farted, but looks like you farted. Or when you go to shake someone's hand and they give you the fist bump, but you got the handshake. You know? Or they come in for a hug and you're ready for a handshake. Awkwardness happens.
Awkwardness does happen.
And it's part of the life. And it's part of our social culture. It's happened so many times in the barbershop. Meeting people, trying to introduce, having goofy conversations, thinking, well, he just said that, or I just said that, but you can't take those words back, and now the awkwardness is there. So.
And there's also, besides the awkwardness inside of a social context, which you're talking about, there's also a piece of, when you want to be honest with somebody, but being honest also creates awkwardness. Mm-hmm. It's like you can't even, and people
they say, what do you think about that? And you're thinking, I don't really want to say what I'm thinking.
And people avoid, being in an awkward situation like the plague. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just calling it out as awkward, that's a really popular thing nowadays. Awkward.
Kind of breaks the ice unless,
So.
But I got a few stories where I really got awkward and embarrassed, and I'll share those today. But it's part of our culture, something we have to deal with. And I think it's something we should embrace, laugh it off, and move on.
I totally agree.
What happens is our psyche, we sit back after we're in an awkward situation thinking, why didn't I say that? Why didn't I speak up? Or why did I feel so weird? And why did and we kind of beat ourselves up when we get in an awkward moment. Yeah. I mean, there's a guy that I could have had business dealings with several times, but I'd get around him, and I would just, I don't know about it, but it just, it was like a bad date that just kept happening over and over again. I've seen him 3 or 4 times now, and it's just like, okay, here goes my awkwardness. And now it's built up so much that every time I see him, I'm just this goofy-ass awkward guy. Yeah. And I think he views me as that.
I know. I have the exact same experience with certain people.
It is just like, but that's part of life. We can't beat ourselves up, but that's what happens. We think, I'm such a goober when I get around this guy.
And there's a lot of pressure. I think sometimes, especially if we get around with somebody that's got prestige or something, there's this pressure to be cool and live up to maybe their expectation when really they're just normal people and they just want to be dealt with in a normal way. But we make it awkward.
Yeah. So today's show is really to talk about I'm feeling awkwardness. And that it's normal for everybody to have.
Yeah, and that it's no big deal. And that we should
embrace it and not really beat ourselves up about it.
Yeah, it's no big deal.
But, on to my first story. So, I'm filling the pulpit.
Best stories, Matt.
I'm filling the pulpit. Man, I'm preaching up good. And preaching at this church, and I'm following my notes, and I come to this one section, and I can't read my handwriting. And I just do bullet points. Yeah. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at this, and I'm trying to read the bullet point, and then I'm trying to make it out. And then what I think it says, and it's like, what the hell was I thinking? By this time now, it feels like it's been 10, 15 seconds. Mm-hmm. I look up, and everybody's just staring at me like this. And so now I feel like there's 100 deer in the headlights looking at me. Right. And so my blood pressure elevates. I turn red. Mm-hmm. And I go, and then I try to recover, and I'm in a downward spiral.
Oh, just like it's out of control.
Now it doesn't even make sense that I'm talking about. Totally lost everybody. Yes. The looks even more concerning out in the audience, like, he's going down.
Exactly.
And then it's just like, and I remember saying this, I go, dear Lord, let's pray. Because at that moment, only prayer was going to get me out of this thing.
Cut and run.
And I got like stage fright at the pulpit, halfway through a sermon. Yeah. And then I was so flustered at myself that I could hardly even finish. Mm-hmm. That was but the problem was, it wasn't like in the elevator with 4 other people or a weird handshake. Yeah. It was in front of a whole congregation of people I cared about. Large number, and they're looking straight at me, having to be quiet. Mm-hmm. I wish somebody would have said in the audience, awkward.
Right. That would have broken the tension.
Would have broken the tension. But that was my worst awkward moment. And even to this day, like right now as I'm talking about it, I'm feeling...
You're still embarrassed about it.
I'm embarrassed about it. And the emotions in me are rising up thinking, oh my gosh.
I have so many things like that I can say.
But we got them. And that's one of my
and everybody
top
does
10
that.
of Matt's. Yeah.
And we hold on to these things, like, and I can think of things that just like that I'm the only person that even remembers that moment happened.
Yes.
Right. No one else cares. Nobody else cares. Everybody forgot. It's no big deal. Yeah. But yeah, we hold on to that stuff, and everybody's got their moment. I remember one time we were going to this event, and it was at somebody's house, and it was a religious event. You know, they were going to have this little presentation about going to Israel or something like that. Anyway, we were in an unfamiliar area of a state we weren't from, and so we're just driving through the country trying to find this house, and it was supposed to start at 7, and it's 7:15, and we still haven't found this house, and we finally get there, and it wasn't just a small group like me and my wife. It was me and my wife, our 3 kids, and another couple and their 5 kids, and then another couple with us. So we're this whole horde of people, and we're supposed to be there at 7, and so when we walk into the door.
And a train just comes in of people.
Dude, and you could have cut the tension in the room with a knife. These guys were so unhappy that we cut right in the middle of his presentation. I mean, it was bad. And, this is a Christian environment, so you'd be like, do you think
show some brotherly love.
Somebody would say something like, hey, how you guys doing? Come on in. Welcome. But no, it was really...
good Christians do this. Where the hell were you?
It was
halfway through my conversation.
Super awkward.
We kill our own. I mean, we're like Mother Rabbits. We eat our young.
That's disgusting. So anyway, I'm walking through the room, and nobody's saying anything, not even from our group. So I just said, hey, y'all.
Got it. That didn't go.
I was like, how you guys doing tonight? We're really sorry we're late. We could not find this place. And then everybody was just totally cool.
Yeah.
And everything was fine. Hey, welcome. And then they were really cool about it. But they didn't know us. We didn't know them. And there was this awkward moment. And I hate those moments, like in the elevator.
Yeah. But you handled that really well.
Yeah, you have to cut through the tension.
I mean, if you can bust a funny, bust a funny.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, there's so much tension that you can almost say anything that's funny.
Right, yeah. What would have been really funny is
bananas. Stick your hand and thumb on your forehead, yell out a fruit. Did you ever do that when you were a kid? When you fart?
No, I never did that.
Oh, okay.
I was cool when I was a kid.
I was cool too. I started a whole trend.
Yeah.
If you farted,
but
you'd put your hand.
But I never heard of it, so not much of a trend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I think an elevator is a great example. It's like this awkward moment where no one's allowed to talk, right? Mm-hmm. But it's just super tense, and so...
How about when you're in a bathroom, too? Like at a large bathroom at a hotel or gas station or something. Some guy just starts up a conversation with you at the urinal. Mm. That's one of them weird things, like...
See, some people think that's weird. I just don't like, as long as we're all both looking at the wall.
Yeah, you don't want eye contact while
that's a real nice watch you got there, buddy.
Did you just get your nails done?
Yeah, awkward. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, I've kind of gone both sides of the fence thinking, okay, I guess it's okay. I've had it done to me and it didn't really bother me,
Yeah.
And then I'd try to spout off a conversation in the bathroom. It dropped like a lead balloon. So, being rejected, I just couldn't handle it. So I just went back to my old safe, don't talk to nobody, don't look at nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Awkward situations do happen all the time. And
it's funny how young, though, youth, especially little kids, and I'm talking about like 8 and younger, my kids' age, how their awkwardness hasn't really happened yet. Mm-hmm. Like my little 3-year-old can walk into the urinal, drop his pants down to his ankles, sit there and pee and wiggle like a free willy.
Airing it all out.
Air it all out. Sit there and talk to you like, hey, we're going to get some candy after this or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it can be a full house in the bathroom.
No reservations.
No reservations,
Yeah.
And,
as a matter of fact, in my elementary school...
And I can do the most embarrassing thing to him in front of people at 3, and he won't care. He won't care.
In our elementary school, they didn't even have a door on the stall of the toilet. Mm. You just walk into the bathroom.
You know why that is? Because my boys did this the other day. They locked it and then crawled out from underneath it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We were at a gas station, and Charlie's laughing. I walk in there. What did you do? And He'd lock the stall door,
Crawl
crawled
under
out.
the, so gross.
And I said, "What did you do?" And he's just giggling, thinking, "Oh, buddy."
Yeah.
I said, "Crawl back underneath there and unlock that door."
But you're right. That reservation, they don't care.
They don't care. And it's funny. I mean, we almost need to take that back to some degree.
Yeah.
We don't need to have that "I don't care" like a 3-year-old too much, because obviously that can be dangerous. But
For sure.
But we need to take that back to where when we do something that's awkward, or we're late, or get stage fright, that we overcome.
Exactly.
And then it's not that big of a deal. And you nailed it on the ride. Is often we're the only ones who ever remember it.
Mm-hmm.
That time I got stage fright and I was preaching, no one else remembers it.
No, but we remember those moments.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other thing there, you talk about a young person having no reservation. Then as people get older, then they also lose their reservation.
Oh,
you see these old guys walking around the YMCA locker room, just coming out of the shower, just swinging.
Yeah, yeah.
Chilling out,
I have
man.
noticed that.
And they don't care, right? I'm 80 and I'm at the Y and I don't care what you see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One comedian put it like this: the guy put his leg up on the bench, wanting to have a
butt flossing with his towel right there in front of everybody.
wanting to chat. His stuff was hanging like a Chinese lantern. He said.
Snuffleupagus came out to say hi.
Talk about an awkward moment.
Yeah,
But that's the way it is.
I was a member of the Y recently, and it was exactly, you just hit it. I mean, in Waco, it was that way. It was all the middle-aged guys had some manners.
Right.
All the old men were like,
and that's old school thinking too.
Yeah.
But they just don't care.
And I think too, like, you'd watch these old movies from back in the day when kids were kids, and I think skinny dipping as young boys was common. Like, we're walking, we're out in nature.
Yep.
And little boys would just strip off their clothes and go swim in a pond or creek. I mean, that's at least what I see on TV, and I hear old men talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
But today, the idea of my little boys just stripping off their clothes and going swimming with other little boys, our society would be like, what's going on here? We're such a nanny state that we created some... And that's what awkwardness is. Awkwardness is culture's way of saying what is proper and not proper. And it's a kind of the unspoken rules of man.
Right.
That makes us uncomfortable. When you fart in an elevator, or you walk into a fart in the guy, because I always thought that was hilarious. I'd fart right when I get off and then leave, and then leave the rest of the people in the elevator Dutch oven. And then, you know what I'm saying? It's not against the law to fart in the elevator, is it?
Hilarious.
But is it the unspoken rule?
It's not.
It is an unspoken rule. Don't do that. It's not proper.
Mm-mm. And we let society dictate what's allowed, and I do think that's unfair. What's cool for me and you is not cool for a teenager nowadays.
No.
And the whole idea of being cool and being accepted and being popular, it's of course we all want to be accepted, right? Mm-hmm. And we should strive to have some sort of semblance of reality in our relationships. But at the same time, people mess up. Speaking, your speaking engagement, for example, you're preaching there. You say words.
All the time.
I make up words.
You listen
randomly.
to a few of these shows, you hear that I misspeak all the time.
Yes. Yeah. And so, but who cares, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're just people.
Uh-huh. I figured if Larry the Cable Guy could be famous and misspeak all the time, there's a little bit of a chance for Matt Horner.
Exactly. And Larry the Cable Guy is super successful, Yeah. And I think he does dumb down his show because I think he's a pretty intellectual guy, outside of the show. But either way, I think the idea still stands is, maybe we take life a little bit too seriously sometimes.
I think and people give a lot more grace than we expect on minor things. Now, they might not on bigger things, but they do on other stuff. Mm-hmm. So, don't beat yourself up if you get awkward.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that, there's always an opportunity sometimes, especially if you're awkward in front of some friends. Mm-hmm. You go back and say, hey, look, I was awkward the other day. I'm sorry. Yeah. You can make it right. If you really feel like you messed up a social engagement, and you watch these TV shows. My wife and I watch a lot of TV shows and different things, and the shows are made of awkward moments. That's all they do is they create awkward moments.
In fact, they call it something comedy.
Situational comedy.
Situational comedy.
Sitcom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what the hit shows like The Office, Parks and Recreation. And
Seinfeld was all about that.
Seinfeld was all about that. You know,
Yeah,
like
creating awkward situations.
Awkward situations. And we'd laugh our butts off because we've been there.
Yeah, and it's funny.
It's funny.
And I think that's the thing.
That's where it goes back to that grace is most people have been there. They understand it.
Right.
They're sorry. You know.
Yeah.
They're just glad it wasn't them.
Exactly. But have you ever watched one of those shows and you feel awkward?
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, I can't watch the TV anymore because...
Oh, I did that with The Office all the time with Steve Carell, what he would do, you know.
Yeah, you do remind me a lot of Steve.
I remember, like, he did one where it was about he was outing Oscar as gay. And then he wanted to show that he supported the gay community. And he did, like, this forced hug and kiss on Oscar. But Oscar didn't want it. It was so awkward and weird. It was just like, and even though it was all planned and written, and it was all part of a plan, in that I was closing my eyes and just looking away, thinking,
terribly awkward.
But it was like morbid comedy. Like, it's so freaking weird and awkward, I can't turn it off, but I still want to watch it.
Right.
And
yeah, and I think that's the success of those types of shows that create, you know, hilarious, awkward moments is sort of our life. And I think that's why people like that stuff so much, is not only can they relate to it, but it makes them feel easier about the way that they may be.
Yeah. I'm not the only dumbass out there.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, and you know, we're all making a fool of ourselves. I remember a Seinfeld episode where Elaine's dad was coming into town, and he's some prestigious businessman. He's an author. He's written all these books, you know, and George and Jerry are freaking out because... And Elaine was late to the engagement, so they're sitting with this guy for, you know, what seems like hours on the show. And
they don't know how to act.
And Jerry had just bought this brand new suede, I believe it was a suede leather jacket or whatever.
Yeah.
And anyway, it was a real, and that's funny, you know, but we've all experienced that where, you know, you meet somebody who's got this prestige or whatever, and all of a sudden you're just an idiot in front of them.
Yeah.
So... I think that's one of the reasons those shows succeed. And I think the other thing about being awkward is just accepted that that's going to happen. I embarrass my wife so much, you know, and then she tells me about it later, and I'm just like, hey, you know, we're having a good time. You know, what's the big deal? And so just realizing that you're going to be awkward, that you're going to marry somebody who's going to have awkward moments, you know.
And giving grace to that special someone.
Yeah.
And that special someone can extend into your kids. Your kids will get you in some awkward moments where they tell some maybe honesty or truth that you didn't want them to say at that moment.
Oh, yeah.
Or they want to go do something at a specific time, but you're not ready to do that. And
yeah, we have our daughter just went to someone's house not too long ago and said, oh my gosh, your house is actually clean this time. Like, she told the lady that.
Oh my gosh.
And you're just thinking, shut up. Right? And kids will do that too, you know. And
don't miss a beat. Like, well, you got any snacks?
Exactly. Like, I just totally offended you, and I have no idea. You know.
Yeah, and that goes back to the old man's that way.
Yes.
You know. Oh. But I think he knows.
Yeah.
He just don't care.
Did you ever see Downton Abbey? It reminds me of Granny, the grandma from Downton Abbey. She just says the most brutally honest, really mean stuff, and people are just like, that's the rudest thing anyone's ever said to me, but okay. And that's sometimes, I wish that we had a little bit more honesty in our culture. It's like we're always dancing around pretense. I can't hurt your feelings, or I can't be honest. And we don't want to be jerks to people. But at the same time...
I once was told that I was brutally honest. And at first it but then I got to thinking, well, that's the only way to be.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to business dealings. You know, stuff that's real high stress. You know, I want to be very straightforward with my expectations with you.
Right.
And I want you to be very straightforward of what you think you can deliver. And that can bring that awkwardness in the business world where, okay, so I got to have a difficult meeting with so-and-so about some business issues. It's going to be tough. It's going to be awkward. You know you're walking in to an awkward situation.
Exactly.
You're going to have to fire somebody. You're going to have a
correct somebody.
action, correct somebody.
Exactly.
And but that's part of it. And got to be tough-skinned. And a lot of people in those leadership positions try to play that middle ground, try to be the appeaser.
Yeah.
But that's not going to fix anything.
No, it's not. And I think you're right. I think, we need to be able to embrace those moments and learn how to live through them. When I've never been good at interviewing. Like when I was getting interviewed for a job, I get my body starts to shake and my voice gets shaky. I have to do breathing exercises. And I'm not even kidding. I was in this interview one time for a job that I wanted, and I felt like the interview was going awesome. The lady that was going to be my supervisor was sitting next to me, and then her boss was the one that was doing the interview. And everyone's laughing, we're cutting up, we're having a great time, And interviews can be awkward, obviously. And Stone Cold, the guy behind the desk, looks at me and says, "Keith, I don't think you're going to be a good fit for this company." And I was like tore down inside. I was like, why? What did I do? So I just looked at him and said, "Why not?"
Yeah.
And he starts laughing, right? That was just a total interview move there that he was trying to intimidate me with. And I came back with, "Why not?" And he said, "I don't think I've ever had anyone ask me that before." And anyway, I got the job, and it was fun, but created a super awkward moment, and I didn't know what to do with it. So I was honest. I said, why isn't this working? Why am I not a good fit? But anyway, the honesty approach
it almost seems like a great tactic in the interview.
Oh, it's great.
Because then if the guy's an overcomer.
I used it on other people after that. I don't think you're going to be a good fit for this company. And watch them wiggle.
Watch them wiggle. I mean, because then it shows if they're an overcomer. Because an overcomer is going to say, "Why not?" Or "How come you think that?" Or give a response that's like, "Let's see if I can still change your mind."
Exactly.
But if the guy who just rolls over and accepts it, will be just stand up and go, "Well, thank you, sir, for the meeting."
Thanks for your time.
And I'm like, "What? You're not a fighter. Get out."
Exactly. And I think it's when we talk about honesty in relationships and things, in the business dealings, that's really important. But it's also, just being a friend to somebody. And like I said, we're always living on these pretense like we can't offend each other. And I think that's important, but at the same time, I think we need to be able to be honest with people. Yeah. And being honest nowadays is pretty awkward.
And then there's those, so you have awkward times that just happen. You have awkward times you just got to walk into, interview situation, disciplinarian or whatever, tough business negotiations, whatever. But then there's the times you got to avoid the awkward situation. And that just happened to me recently. So, we'll go visit church on Sunday. They announced that there's going to be a baptism. My boy's 6 years old. He's seen several baptisms now. He just wants to get baptized. Because when I ask him about the deeper spiritual meaning of what baptism is and, what did Jesus Christ do? And what is salvation? It's just like, I want to get wet. I kind of want to be the center of attention. It's not really deep. Like, he doesn't say, well, I'm imperfect man. I need a Savior. And I'm not wanting him to read me Romans Road or specific scripture, but I do want him to have a basic understanding of salvation before we get baptized.
Exactly.
Because I think that, anyway. So immediately they go, we're going to have a baptism after this, and they start doing, it was a Baptist church, and they have an invitation at the end. My boy goes, I want to go up there and get baptized today. And I sit him down, and I go, what do you think baptism is? And he gives me an answer that's not acceptable. And I said, well, I'm sorry, buddy. We need to talk more about this before you go down there. And then he just stands up, puts his little hands and his head down on the pew in front of him, and starts bawling. And he's whimpering, I just want to get baptized. I just want to get baptized. There's an old couple in front of me and an old couple behind me. And I see those people turn and stare at us.
Oh, no.
And they see that I'm keeping my son from walking the aisle.
Oh, no.
And I'm thinking, I got to get out of this church.
Right, it's time to roll.
It was time to roll. And we got out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But, and people knew the whole story. I think they would say, okay, man, let's understand it. But on that thing, boy, it was awkward.
It is awkward.
So sometimes you see something coming and you're thinking, okay,
we gotta avoid
I don't
this.
really want to stay and have this conversation with y'all because...
Exactly.
And they were scouting us out. They were the church vultures were coming in thick that day.
Were they?
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, they were doing their job. But
yeah, I think that's true. I think sometimes it's if you see an awkward, especially as parents, you know, because your kids go through an awkward stage, especially in adolescence. You know, through teenage years, there's a lot of awkwardness there, and trying to coach your children through. So that they don't come out scarred, you know, because sometimes kids get so damaged in the awkward stage because maybe they don't have a good parent that's supporting them and help prepping them for what's happening. You know, if your kids are doing something they think is really cool, but you know their friends are going to make fun of them for it, you know, you could let the awkward situation go on. But I think coaching them is a good idea. Yeah. And yeah, you're not going to avoid every awkward situation, but I do think preparing them, you know, for that is really important.
Yeah, especially if you know their friends. I mean, there's some things I did to some kids that were cruel as a kid, and then there's some things that was not. So I'd have to be like, well, you're going to wear that with who? I'm going to have to judge that. And if that kid's going to be like, that's an acceptable amount of peer pressure that won't damage you. Yeah, wear it.
Yeah, sure. And I think that's important.
Yeah.
But, you know, there are certain things, you know, that our children, for example, would get really embarrassed about. And things that Amanda and I can do that will create an awkward situation for them. And I think having that in mind, you know, my dad was never afraid to embarrass me. You know, and sometimes the embarrassment's no big deal, right? I mean, that's part of life. But I also think we need to be mindful of when too much, because the Bible says not to, you know, provoke your children to anger. And then, you know, I think also we just need to be mindful of their feelings and their self-awareness. But anyway, I think that's important.
Yeah, I think so too.
Avoiding awkward moments when you can and for a good purpose.
So there's a lot to be said about awkward moments, and I could handle them better. Learning when to drop a funny, you know, is good. And your interview story is a great example of, you know, how to handle an awkward moment.
Yeah, just put yourself out there.
And then give yourself a lot of grace. So when it happens, it happens.
Yeah, I agree.
So, well, I guess with that, I will awkwardly finish the show.
You're such an awkward person.
Bye. See you next time.
See you next time.